The most important thing about any team, any single team, is the leadership. And now we know who Michigan's leadership is, as the 4 team captains have been named for the 2024 season. Also, the perception of the Wolverines is starting to seemingly change somewhat nationally. We're going to get into all of that here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group, and I just got back from Ann Arbor, where we met with the 4 new team captains. If you didn't know, and I'm sure you do at this point, Donovan Edwards and Max Bredesen from the offensive side of the ball, and Rod Moore and Makari Page from the defensive side of the ball. So some interesting things coming out of, we're not just going to stick strictly to captains. We'll get to some of the interesting things they said as well. But nonetheless, I think that this is the right choice. It's funny because this is not a team, because now they opened it up basically to the seniors, 5th years and 6th years. So no juniors were eligible, at least this time around. That's why you have who you have before a certain Detroit network starts screeching that the quarterback was not named a team captain, whoever that might be, right? But this was open, and it usually has been the case. There have been a few exceptions to that, but generally it has been the case that it's the elder statesmen. It's the 4th years and the 5th years. I mean, that's where you see some of the guys who've been 2-time captains, Mikey Sainristil or Ronnie Bell. They became captains in their senior year and then continued as they were grad students. There have been exceptions. I think 2018 was the year that you had some juniors, but outside of that, it's generally been seniors. So that kind of explains somewhat like the rubric there. There are certainly other guys that are a part of that. I mentioned on Twitter that there are 2 alternate captains, and Josiah Stewart and who was the offensive one? Kalel Mullings, I believe, was the other one. Kalel Mullings and Josiah Stewart are the 2 alternate captains. So you'll probably see some of those guys having that responsibility, especially if Rod Moore doesn't travel for a little bit. But any team is only as important as its leadership, and you can kind of see that, right? Because there's a point of being held accountable and being accountable to yourself, to your teammates, and all of that. That's been a common theme of things that we've talked about on this show for years, going back to 2019. And that's something that Michigan had been missing. And I think that's where it's interesting when Donovan Edwards says something like, hey, I paid a lot of really close attention to Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Ross because they came in after the 2-4 season. You know, I wasn't there. It was my freshman year, but they come in and say, that's not who we're going to be. We're going to be different. We're going to do things different. Max Bredesen talking about like the attention to detail that exists, and it's things is you would think is minor of, you know, how does your locker in Schembechler Hall look? Like, where do your shoes go? What does your drink go? Like, we pay attention to the finest details. Those are the types of things that changed. And I understand that for many, they might not see it that way. They might say, okay, but this is what happens when you have a highly regimented team, a team that it's kind of like an army type scenario, right? Like everything it becomes muscle memory from the smallest detail. You know, how you make your bed matters, you know, in the military. You know, the way that you present your uniform matters in the military. Well, a lot of those same things also matter for Michigan. And I think that also creates a little bit of that brotherhood that, you know, if you're in the military, you're going to die for the guy next to you. And it's not that serious in football, so don't think I'm saying that. But it's the same type of mentality that, hey, I'm going to a figurative war, not a literal one, but into a figurative war, into figurative trenches with this guy next to me. I'm not going to let him down. I'm going to give my all. I'm going to do the most. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that, you know, I do my job for him. And then it just kind of trickles down. So I think that that's a really positive thing. Now, some interesting things coming out of this as well. Like Rod Moore saying he hopes to be back this year, but he is going into it as captain coach Rod, but he hopes to be captain player Rod. And there was certainly a level of disappointment for him, but considering he said, I had this season circled on my calendar for years, is like, this is the one to look forward to. And this is going to be the time that I can finally go out and show everything I'm capable of, only for it to get taken off of my plate. And like he said, after he tore his ACL, which happened in practice, he said it was a special teams drill and he planted and something went wrong. And from there, he found, he realized what had happened. He said once the gravity of it hit him, he cried. Took some time off for rehab purposes. Went to California for a few weeks and started rehabbing there. It said that was a really good mind cleansing place for him to be. So I think, though, because he is a team captain, not because he is a team captain because of this, but I think that these things are symbiotic, and I would think that it's going to help him that much more, help his fellow teammates, not just the safety room, but the rest of the defense in particular, be accountable. Offensively, we got to hear a little bit more about where the offense has really shined. And I think that's why we're going to see, as we talk about here in a few moments, about the perception changes that seem to be happening from a national media perspective. But Donovan Edwards shares like, yeah, he's like, I hate going up against the defense. Like, you have no idea. Going up against our defense sucks. He's like, it is awful going up against these guys. Yet, if memory serves, let me look at it. If I can find the quote in my my AI transcription app. If memory serves, he said that the offense has won the last 4 days. I think. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Either the defense is falling apart or the offense is starting to get really, really good. And it seems like the offense is starting to get really, really good. So here's what he had to say. I'm going to kind of read a poor transcription of it here because I haven't transcribed it to write yet. I think early on in camp, it's always a back and forth. I think the offense has been really good for like the past 4 practices. I think that I know for a fact that's the best defense in America. This is the fun part of trying to figure out what the transcription wants to say. So being able to go against them every single practice, that's helping us, that's shaping us. We're making plays against the defense. They're making plays against us, and that's building the bond and connection for us. The defense makes plays. We're going to celebrate with them because we know that all of the other things that they've been through fall camp, I think going into the season, that's going to be great for our team chemistry. That is 100% true. And one thing I really want to note is about Donovan is the humility factor. We've talked about this on the show as well. But Donovan Edwards at this time last year, sorry, my phone's going off there. Donovan Edwards this time last year was out there telling everyone that would listen that he's Walter Payton reincarnated, essentially. Whereas now, I asked him, said, are you clamoring for more touches in the past game? Because, I mean, you have that. And he's like, no, I wouldn't do that. Like, if my number's called and if they got to play for me, then cool. But this is a quote, we have so many talented guys like Samaj, Peyton O'Leary, Amarian Walker, Channing Goodwin, Amarian Stewart. I'm kind of cutting through here. CJ Charleston. I'm sure you mentioned Fred Moore, and it just transcribed it weird. All these guys, we have a lot of guys that can go make plays. So it would be selfish for me to go and say I want the ball right here, right now. I might do that eventually. He laughed and then said, no, but I want the ball. But we've got a lot of playmakers on this team, and they deserve to have their skills utilized. That's a big thing for, especially, this is why he's a team captain. He wasn't even this going into his junior season. And I feel like the humbling moment, he went and he hearkened back to the book of Job. He explained it. I'm going to explain it to you for a quick second because we're running a little bit over time here in segment 1. But he harkened back to the book of Job. The book of Job, which is in the Old Testament of the Bible, Satan goes to God and says, like, I want, like, you're none of your people are loyal. And God says, yes, they are. And have you thought about my servant Job? And Satan says to God, well, he's only loyal because you've blessed him so much. Like, but if he wasn't feeling that blessing, then he would turn his back on you. And God said, I'll let you do what you do. And Job got everything taken away from him, essentially. His children, his very profitable farm, all these different things got taken away from him. And while he lamented in the moment, he stayed faithful to God, and God continued to provide for him after that. So Donovan harkens back to that, and I think that's a good way to look at it. Listen, I've gone through a humbling moment. Maybe that continues, but I'm going to keep my head up. I'm going to keep my eyes on the Lord, and nothing's going to take away my joy. And I think that Donovan has learned a lot. Weirdly, I think last year, they always say that there's a reason for suffering, right? Like, you build character, you build who you are out of moments of suffering. And I think that that's been a big thing for Donovan. So I think that's great. All right, we're going to get to some national perspective stuff. The tune is changing from a national perspective. How many times can I say national perspective? Probably 18 more times. We're going to get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, are you taking that dream vacation this summer? I mean, you've got a couple more weeks. You got Labor Day. Go watch the season opener on a cruise or something, you know. Are you dreading the cost, though, if you're trying to take a late summer vacation before the kids start school? Well, with Ibata, you get cash back on all of your purchases, so you can spend more time making memories and less time dreaming about them. Ibata is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries, beauty supplies, even toys. You can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibata user earns $256 a year that could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner that you have been craving. Other apps will give you points that don't amount to much, but with Ibata, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. You can save over 2,400 brands and over 100. I did this last time, not 100,000, 1,000 retailers, but including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. It's time you joined the over 50 million users who use Ibata to earn cash back every time that they shop. Right now, Ibata is offering our listeners $5 for trying Ibata using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play, download the free Ibata app, and start earning cash back and use the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA at the Google Play or App Store, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege. So FYI, I'm as Jim Harbaugh used to say, I'm working through something. I've got a little something. I was trying to remember the other thing. Was it who used to say boo boo? I think Harbaugh said that, but I think that was more like a Don Brown thing, if like memory serves. That feels like forever ago. What's wrong with me? It's not people are gonna be like, oh, he's sick again. I'm not sick. I'm injured. I have a hurt left wrist. My right knee is partially gone, and my right hip as well. A little bit of my right shoulder. So what happened to me? Well, me trying to be a chivalrous human being last night. Sarah and I went to church, and we came back. We had to run an errand, and she went to go open her door. And I try not to let her open doors for herself because, again, I was raised to be a gentleman, and she insists on doing it anyway. So I started trying to run. I was on some grass, and I didn't realize that the pavement was like about 3 inches raised from the grass. It was dark out. I started trying to run, and caught the my toe on and flew into the air. before she knows that I'm laying in front of the car in front of her in the fetal position because I just flew and just hit the pavement. I'm 227 pounds as of this morning, or 226. That's a lot of weight to just slam into the pavement. It was hilarious, though. I'm just telling you that story because it was hilarious and show you how ridiculous of a human I am. All right, there's been a bit of a perception shift that's happening when it comes to Michigan. It started, I think, with Clint Brewster from 24/7. We talked about him earlier in the week, but more people are starting to kind of come along, kind of saying, you know what, we're with you on this. Greg McElroy, at least on August 3rd, maybe it was like he said this maybe August 1st or 2nd, I don't know, maybe I just saw the video late. He was kind of like, guys, Michigan's not going to be great. Like, I've been on the Michigan train all along, and which he had been. He was the person that out there week one being like, Michigan's going to win the national championship. The year before, he was like, Michigan absolutely can win a national championship. They are that good. So it was kind of like a sinking feeling when Greg McElroy comes out here after Big Ten Media Days. So we're gearing up towards the season. Fall camp has started, and he's like, you think that I'm going to continue to hold that same position on Michigan? Think again. Well, he seems like he's done a 180. I'll read part of his quote. What if Michigan, defending national champs, what if they are more dynamic offensively this year? Have we heard a little bit about the offense maybe being a little bit better than people think? He takes it a step further. We've said for a while Michigan is going to win with defense. Michigan is going to be able to get it done because of their depth in the front seven. Defensively, Michigan is be able to basically hold everybody under 20 points. And if they want to win a game 17-14, they're comfortable taking that path to victory. Didn't really think about the possibility that they would be potentially more dynamic offensively. It goes down into the losses and all of that stuff. Obviously, we know about that. We've talked about that. Later, he says, but it sounds like so far in fall camp, the new OC, Kirk Campbell, is kind of opening things up a bit. There's been a lot of competition. Given the fact that the team lost 13 players to the NFL draft last year means there's a lot of vacancies offensively, a lot of guys vying for those jobs, and maybe that's made everybody a little bit better. Sounds like the offensive line is coming together. And if you listen to some of the defenders that have been speaking on behalf of the guys that they're playing against, sounds like the offense is winning their fair share of the battles. What did we just talk about in segment one? Which wouldn't be expected when taking into account that some of the pieces that are back off of last year's national championship winning team on the defensive side. It also sounds like Alex Orji, who primarily in his career has been asked to be a runner, be athletic. He has one pass attempt for 5 yards. So if you look at that and what he's been asked to do, I don't think that they're going to have to deviate too much from his strength. He's going to be a factor in the run game, but it sounds like the advancements he's made throwing the football have been pretty drastic. This offseason, been buzz about multiple touchdown passes throughout the scrimmages. Sounds like he's been kind of carving them up. And it sounds like this underrated group of wide receivers is actually ahead of schedule. Also sounds like they're a little bit deeper at running back than I had originally anticipated. I want to talk about that for a second before I move on here. That to me sounds like intel from inside. That's not him just reading what other people are saying. That sounds to me like he's got his own man on the ground that is not Isaiah Hole, who is feeding him some things that they've seen from practice. I'm not sure who that might be, but that screams to me, because I haven't necessarily seen that exact intel, the multiple touchdown passes throughout the scrimmages. I have not personally seen he's carving him up, that type of stuff. So he's getting that from somewhere that's not just in the general, what have you, the ether of the Michigan ecosphere of insider media. Okay. Which I hope to have my own insider look into fall camp here. I know it basically ends tomorrow, but we hope to have something with that here by week one before it all takes off. We'll try to talk to somebody. Anyway, here's the kicker. He continues. So if Michigan's more dynamic offensively, they come into the season ranked number 9. Y'all, they're going to be back in the playoff mix because this defense will be able to carry them. But if their defense doesn't have to carry them, the offense is actually super dynamic and difficult to defend, then look out. They're not just going, they're back into not just being a playoff contender, but back into becoming a national championship contender. I mean, that is certainly a possibility. I don't know if I am there yet. I think that they could be in that hunt. I have them going 10-2, so technically, yeah, I guess I do have them kind of there. I don't know what 2 games necessarily. Pick 2 of the 4 harder games. I include Washington in that because it's on the road, and it's the first road game, and it's all the way out west. It's not just like a hour flight; it's a 5-hour flight in a hostile environment. So that to me is maybe a little bit more difficult. And pick 2 of the 4 though. I mean, I think they absolutely could beat any of those 4 teams because if they have the line play, they can do it. People are forgetting what Michigan's identity has been. It hasn't been, oh man, they haven't. I mean, yes, JJ has been the best Michigan quarterback maybe ever. But they didn't ask JJ to go out there and be the best Michigan quarterback maybe ever. He just kind of was quietly. Michigan won mostly still through the trenches in the run game and with a solid defense and incredible tight end play. Guess what Michigan has? As long as the quarterback can be efficient and not turn the ball over, and they are smart play calling wise, it's and people forget 2021 existed. I know they didn't win it all, but they went 11-1 in the regular season and beat Ohio State. Like the defense should allow them to do that again. Offensively, they didn't have to do a lot. There is the possibility that, like, I understand people will look at it and say, well, that's not what that offense looks like. That's not what that offense is built like. I mean, you can look at other teams around college football and say, well, that offense isn't necessarily filled with 5-star receivers or 5-star linemen, and yet they get it done. Iowa, it doesn't have a good offense, but it's managed to move the ball with nothing at times. That's a bad example, by the way. But like you look at some of the Fresno States of the world, it's not that they necessarily have a team full of otherworldly guys who have been able to, over the years, stretch the field. Texas Tech doesn't necessarily always have the most amazing players in the country. Western Kentucky. What you can at any time essentially elevate yourself on either side of the ball with good coaching and good scheme. So yes, there is the possibility Michigan can be more dynamic offensively. I do want to add, and we're really running over time here, which we can't do with the camera that I'm using because it cuts us off at 30 minutes. I do want to add that Joel Klatt has Michigan as his 11 seed in the playoff. Now that would mean, as he said, out of those 4 games, Michigan wins 2. I think they're fully capable of doing that. That's kind of what I have happening. But in the words of Cade McNamara in 2020, what if we went out, huh? I think it's possible. Probable? Plausible? I don't know. We'll see. They play seasons for a reason. And certainly, I think that Michigan's, despite having been actual hotness, they're not the new hotness. Everyone wants to see fireworks and panache. And they're not there yet. Okay, we have to wrap this up. So we're going to do that here in just a moment. Before we do, hey, Locked On Wolverines fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. That's Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of Michigan? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And here's what I really love about the game. You're responsible for calling offensive plays during the game. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Wolverines fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. All right, we've got max 4.5 minutes left to wrap this up. So unfortunately, that's what we're going to do. Let's see. I do want to mention one quick thing is the Arkansas defensive coordinator talking about sign stealing and how it's prevalent, how people get their signs and stuff. Because I feel like a lot of people have forgotten that sign stealing is legal and sign stealing through game film is legal and that you can get a lot of that. Most of it through that, and that people like to kind of point their finger at Connor and yell cheating and all this stuff. Like, so I saw it on that thread on Twitter, and it's like people don't understand how much of a part of college football it is and has been. If you don't know, then you don't know football. It's just, and if you think that what Connor did, had the impact that turned games from, one way or the other, I mean, it's unlikely, right? Like Michigan's problem wasn't just when Ryan Day, as the offensive coordinator and then head coach, yeah, he knew Michigan signs. It wasn't as much him knowing Michigan signs as much as it was Michigan's inability to see that / inability to adjust and the simplicity of it all. So it's kind of funny how that's all worked. But I also want to address because I've seen both happiness and praise about me revealing Connor as my source, one of my sources in all of this, and as well as I've been told there's disdain for whatever reason. Let me be very clear. Connor is very well aware that I was outing him as my source because that was going to happen on August 27th when I appeared in a documentary that he asked me to appear in. So you can think it's tacky, but like it's funny because like all along people were asking me to reveal my source and complaining like, he won't reveal his source, get him. And then I reveal it, and then I'm assuming it's the same people. He revealed his source. Get him. I only tell you so that it kind of gives you some well, number one, because it's going to be obvious in 4 days. But secondly, because it should give you some perspective on what I've said leading up to this point. Right? And we'll continue to talk about it, especially hopefully I'll get my eyes on the documentary here before it comes out. I've been promised that I will get that opportunity. So, and then once that actually comes out, we'll talk about it on Tuesday. Like I said, I don't expect Connor to come on. He hasn't completely written it off, so it is a possibility. We won't obviously be able to delve too deep into anything if that does happen because of the ongoing what have you. But nonetheless, it's I don't know. I don't even know if I have anything to say after that. It just is. But like I said, I am nervous to be in it because as much as I've been assured, like, you didn't say anything stupid, I'm like, but what if I did? What if I said something ridiculous? Like, I wouldn't put it past myself. They're like, so, tell us how you connected with Connor. I'm like, well, first I recognize that the moon isn't real. And they're like, whoa, wait, what? So I don't know. Anyway, we'll address more next week once the documentary airs, and then we'll be able to give a little bit more context to the things that we've talked about for months and months and months on this show. But for now, that's going to do it. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll be back on Friday. Friday is going to be a mailbag. So I'm putting out the tweet. Get your questions in by noon Eastern time, because otherwise that's our cutoff point. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.